Next time you have an opportunity to make a difference for animals, will you be brave enough? Yes or no?
All right, g'day. Today we're gathered here and I'm finding it very hard to contain my excitement because today's is a homework task. And I just think back to all the memorable nights I spent doing homework and realise I don't have to do it anymore. So, we're going to be doing some homework on Chizarira National Park. So Chizarira National Park is in northwestern Zimbabwe. It's just under 2,000 square kilometres in area. It's quite significant. It's the 4th largest national park in Zimbabwe. The characteristics of the park, Chizarira means Great Barrier or enclosure, and the whole front northern mountain range forms this huge barrier, and across that 70-kilometre mountain range there's only 2 places where you can get through on foot. The park then drops back into this great plateau, and there's a number of water holes and rivers, and it really is a land of water with all these little springs starting up everywhere that turn into great big rivers and flow into the Zambezi. Some of the major problems being faced in the park are fire, poaching, lack of infrastructure, lack of tourism, and they all sort of fuel each other. It becomes this compounding issue. Fire is a huge one, and you're seeing these great big trees that have been burnt or knocked over by elephants. A lot of elephant destruction in the area. These are trees that have built up over hundreds of years, and to just be destroyed so quickly, it's hard to try and regain that initiative again because it breaks down entire ecosystems. Poaching is rampant throughout the area. There's been a lot of ivory poaching particularly. Chizarira National Park used to have one of the highest concentrations of black rhino in the world. They've now been completely wiped out of the area since the mid-90s. Which is quite sad as well, but it's one of the things we'd like to do is be able to reintroduce black rhino to that reserve. And there still is quite a lot of wildlife inside Chizarira National Park, but it's very reclusive. If it hears a vehicle or if it hears a person, its tendency is to run away and just get clear of that danger, because most contacts they have with humans, it's been a negative contact, so they assume any contact now to be dangerous. The surrounding communities have a very long history in that area. They're not in their natural environment. They traditionally lived along the Zambezi River. The Batonka people were displaced when the Zambezi River was dammed in the mid-1950s to form Lake Kariba. And so you had this river running along, you had communities living on each side of the river. It was only 30 or 40 metres wide in some places. And they had families that were split across the river. Now when the river was dammed, that river now became 40 kilometres wide. It's full of crocodiles and hippos. They can't just cross that. Not only did it become 40 kilometres wide, it also became an international border. Now these people who've been living in the bush now have to find how to get a passport. They've never had a passport in their life. Passport office is in Harare. Okay, it's over 1,000 kilometres away. They then have to be able to, each time they want to cross the border post, it's another 200 kilometres just to see their family that used to be only 30 or 40 metres away from them. So it created a huge divide, and it's actually very sad to see what's happening. And still today, this group of people, the Batonka, is struggling. The fertile lands that used to run along the banks of the Zambezi before it was dammed and turned into this huge lake, they've been pushed off there, and the areas that they now live in, they're very hard to grow their crops in. And so a lot of the time, Chizarira National Park actually becomes a pantry for the communities that are living around the reserve. Also, a lot of ivory poaching that's going on in the area. You've got quite sophisticated criminal syndicates moving throughout those areas. A lot of the time, driven by Chinese contracts that are operating in the area as well, and there's a direct flow-on effect there. So, what can be done to fix these problems? Well, we need to have a long-term management plan in place for the park. And as humans, we tend to think in these sort of 5 and 10-year blocks. But what we need to really understand is that ecological processes can take centuries and centuries. And so we really need at a minimum is a foresight looking out to 100, 200, 300 years of how we're going to manage this reserve. Because unless we look that far into the future, then we're not going to be able to make the right decisions now. There needs to be tourism coming into the area. There needs to be funding coming into the area. There needs to be good cooperation from the local authorities as well. We need to shut down poaching. We need to stop the fire. We need to get more involved with the local communities. So these are all things that cost money, and it's just one of those things that is happening slowly. But as time goes on, we get more traction. Guys and girls, I really hope you enjoy reading and researching about Chizarira National Park. It really is a mysterious and fantastic place, and if you ever get the opportunity to get up there, you'll never forget it. It's just an awesome remote place. It's like stepping back in time 50, 60 years. It's fantastic. Thank you.